'Cause we all make mistakes sometimes.
Chapter 9 of Nehemiah is a theological summary of Israel's history. Yahweh is faithful to his covenant people. Israel is unfaithful to his covenant. Destruction and exile claims Israel. Israel falls not because of Yahweh's powerlessness, but because of Israel's sin. But because of Yahweh's character and power, Israel exists and is restored. We see this cycle over and over. In this lesson, Israel is divided. The northern kingdom has been conquered by the Assyrians, the southern kingdom by the Babylonians. Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the king. Now, a cupbearer is a high-ranking royal official, serving wine to the king. Kings during that day feared being poisoned. The cupbearer was the man who had irreproachable loyalty to the king and had his complete confidence. Using his influence, Nehemiah had helped to restore the physical security of Israel with the wall, but the nation needed a spiritual restoration. With Ezra, Nehemiah leading the people began an intense period of praying and reading the law, including a prayer of confession of sins. Our lesson concludes that prayer. The prayer acknowledges the character and faithfulness of Yahweh in contrast to that of the people. It uses terms like great and awesome. The writer admits that God has kept his covenant of love and that the hardships now upon Israel were because of their own actions or inactions, their violation of the covenant. It is clear that all of Israel is impacted by these actions. The hardship covers priests, prophets, kings, and leaders. None are exempt. While God has continued to be loyal to Israel and his covenant, the people had ignored God. In violation of the covenant, they had worshipped idol gods, had married outside of their own people those pagans, and begun to worship pagan gods. Even when the kingdom was enjoying prosperity in the land that God had given them, the people and their leadership turned to evil. As 21st century Christians, we too feel the pressure to stray, the pressure that comes from the fear of being called judgmental when we stand for that which is biblical, the pressure to follow the crowd and go astray when we know we should set ourselves apart, the pressure to remain quiet when we see leaders lying and leading us astray when we know our faith demands that we speak truth to power. This lesson focuses us, just like the children of Israel, on the fact that there are consequences to our sins. Our bad choices can result in our captivity in a place we could have flourished. The writer speaks of Israel in captivity on their own land, giving their abundance to kings from foreign lands. Most of us have seen poor decisions result in poor or bad results. In Nehemiah, the 38th verse, the writer says, "We are making an agreement in writing." Although the word covenant is not used here, a similar but rare word is employed, the term agreement. Israel is seeking to restore their relationship with God. Israel is now engaged in a solemn ceremony. Those who had not participated before are now beginning to read and teach the law of God. They are trying to restore their relationship with God. As a part of this restoration process, to rededicate themselves, Israel had to separate themselves from all foreigners. That means that those who had married outside of the covenant had to divorce and separate. Rededication had a cost for those poor decisions. Rededication concluded with the people binding themselves with a curse, an oath that they would obey the commandments and the decrees of the Lord of Lords. Now, it is easy for us to see the mud and the sin of other people, see them wallowing in their own sin. But it is sometimes difficult for us to see our own sins. We start off with dipping our toe in the pool, and we don't see our sins until we are completely immersed. Well, this lesson tells us that we sometimes have to look in the mirror and see our own sins and recognize that we must have a conversation with God, that our prayers should be more than just a ritual, that we must look daily at our relationship with God, and that since God is always right and God is always faithful, it is up to us to reconcile. So this week, let's don't worry so much about what those other people are doing, and let's take the time to meditate and think about what we are doing and what our relationship is. That's the lesson for this week. Have a great week. Bye.